Hello everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Bella. I love all things design and DIY, and today we're going to talk sewing. I feel like this is quite an in-between sort of stage of the year that we're at. If you're someone who likes to prepare for your sewing projects a few months in advance, I know I'm like that. Before each season comes, I get really anticipatory, and I like to start planning out my wardrobe a little bit earlier. And then as the season kind of plays out, I start to get a little bit bored because I just want to be on to the next thing. So right now I'm really trying to get some inspiration for some more summer garments because my mind is already headed to September because I'm bored. I need to get inspired, so I thought, let's do that together. If you are at a loss for what sort of project you want to be working on next, then this video is for you. So let's get right into it. The first dress I want to look at is this beautiful red number. I really like the use of these lace cutouts being vertical and then being mirrored in the bust area. I think this is a really great way to utilize just a small accent of a fabric. If you only had a certain amount, or if you only wanted to buy a certain amount, using them as vertical stripes is really fun. And I think it's also a really flattering way to incorporate cutouts of a certain kind. I'm calling these cutouts because they're sheer. I like them vertical in this case because I feel like some cutouts sometimes can make you look a little bit like choppy or cut you off at certain areas, but this has a really nice elongating effect, so I think this would be really flattering. This orange piece I wanted to mention because I think it's a really great beginner project that you could take a look at. Anything like this out of like a cotton or a linen, something that doesn't have any stretch, is first of all amazing for beginners because it's so easy to sew with. It's not going to be slipping around your machine. It's not going to be like pulling the fabric as you sew. It's just going to be super easy, stay in one place, and all of your stitches will be perfect. But the other thing that I like about this for a beginner project is that it's actually interesting looking, and it looks like you put a lot of effort into it, but I think everything here would be very easy. If you kind of drafted a loose pattern based on the shape of your upper bust, and then you can sort of tailor that a little bit with a few darts if you need to. But I like the way that this is kind of like looser fitting. And then the way that you achieve this like cinching detail could be to sew a channel. I don't think that that's what this is doing on the top at least, but you could sew a channel following along the top of the shirt to feed that string through and then mirror that down below the bust. And I love how this creates that little like cutout at the center bust because of the two cinching details. This is a really easy way that you can add interest, and it doesn't require a lot of like fit or any sort of pattern drafting or anything like that. So this would be really easy. You could also follow a similar concept, but just do these tie-up details at the sides or the back even, depending on where you want that detail to be. Or if you don't really want to highlight your bust, then you could do something like this as a closure at the back. I wanted to talk about these pants because I'm so into like interesting pants right now. I love these, and I especially wanted to talk about the top stitching detail on these pants. I think this is something that I really want to incorporate into a project coming up. I love that that top line of stitching around the hips really like highlights your hips, and I like how it also almost mirrors the curvature of the pockets, which I think is like a detail that's so utilitarian. We don't think of that as like a visual detail on pants, but I like that that top stitching they've added really makes the pockets even look like they're doing something for the piece. And then having that mirrored down with a curve in the leg too, I think is just really pretty. Another pair of pants that I absolutely need to have something like this. I want to believe that I would get a lot of wear out of these. I don't know if I would, but maybe I could become the kind of person who would. I think these would be really easy to make and have them look good. I think the trick is that the flare at the bottom makes them look a lot more like intentional. I think these actually look quite classy even though they are see-through, and I think it is just because of that like straight down leg. Whereas I think a lot of times if we see like a lace or mesh pant or like bodysuit, it's very skin tight. So I like that that has a little bit more interest in the bottom. So if I go ahead with making a pair of lace pants, I think this will definitely be a line that I'll kind of try and follow. This is another really easy piece for beginners. You can make something similar to this. It is going to require a little bit of tweaking because obviously everybody's bodies are different, but if you just cut 2 rectangles as your starting block, cut them to your hip measurement, so measure your hips, and then cut that in half because you need 2 panels. Most of the dress is already done for you at that point, and then sew those side seams together. You can add in a slit if you want to. You can add a slit on both sides. You can cut a low back into it. You can do this detail they have here on the neck, which again is similar to the other top we talked about, adding in a channel there and then just a string detail, tie it up at the back. You don't even have to measure for like a strap, and then just pull in the fabric as you go and keep like tapering it down to fit your body measurements. Depending on your body proportions, you could probably honestly even just do that in the side seams. But if you want to add some simple darts or something like that, this would be so easy. I really like this top, similar to the white pants that we looked at. I love like just slightly elevated basics like this. This would be a really fun and easy thrift flip as long as you had something to go along the edges of your seams so that it could really hold that curve in place, like a bias tape or a ribbing or something like that, or making this from scratch. I really just love this detail. I think it's really flattering to highlight the collarbone, even if you don't want that to be like the focus of the whole piece, or if you want some more coverage up here, but you just want a little bit of something highlighted. I really like this detail, and I think it would be really gorgeous to even bring this into a dress or a 2-piece, something like that. I love it. This one's pretty basic, and it's actually a little bit similar to that like chartreuse dress we looked at, but I want to mention this, if anything, just to remind me that this is something that I want to make. I feel like dresses like this are a major thing that I'm lacking in my wardrobe. I think I would actually get a lot of wear out of them. I think they would suit my style. So I really like this, and I think what I would do if I attempt to make this dress, which I hope to very soon. First of all, a great tip with a basic fitted garment like this, if you're making it yourself, this is amazing because you can make it in any color you want, any print you want. You can augment the style to be a little bit different every time if you want to highlight different areas or add little accents. So for something like this, I want to work on getting a really good pattern down and then making that in multiple different colors. I think the way that I would start with this pattern is taking a tank top that I have, something that fits. I love this high neckline, so I might start with that, and then in patterns to come could kind of alter the neckline a little bit. I think the high neckline is really nice though because you are showing a little bit of leg. So I would start with something I have that is like fairly boat neck like that and that sits quite flat. So this is a great tip if you're taking clothes that you already own and trying to create patterns from them. It's really easy to work with things that lay really, really flat and are similar on the front and back because it doesn't require as much like finicky pinning and cutting and stuff like that. So if I can find something I own like that, or if I can somehow alter a pattern that I've already done, I think I would start with the top because that's, I think, what requires the most effort put into fit for me when I'm sewing, at least it does, and then take my waist and hip measurements and just create that like gradient line going down. And like I said with the green dress, just slowly working it in. I always start with more and then just gradually keep bringing that seam in to where it needs to be. And then I think what they did here also with this slit, the reason this looks so flattering, I think, is because they actually cut the fabric on an angle as well. I really like the way that this dress shows because the one thing that does bother me about slits is the way a dress or a skirt looks when you're not moving. And so I know this model is walking, but her opposite leg is forward in this picture, so let's use that for argument's sake. I think that the fabric definitely curves, and that's what makes this dress like look so flattering, and it probably would be in any context, even if you were just standing still, because you still have that slit effect without the extra fabric like weighing the piece down visually. This skirt I thought was really, really fun. I think this could definitely be a really fun thrift flip. If you bought like a relatively A-line mini skirt and then cut this scallop detail into the bottom and the top, and then took like bias tape or made facings to finish off the top and bottom edges, and then added this kind of like woven detail in to follow that scallop detail. I love this because it creates the illusion that the fabric is woven together, but it definitely doesn't have to be. I don't know if this actually is like intertwined. I think it's probably just embellished to look this way. So I really like that, and I think it's just a fun piece. You could do so much with this concept, do all sorts of different like patterns and shapes, and I love a good embellishment, so I had to mention this one. I think I've mentioned a piece similar to this in one of these videos before. I don't know if that was here on TikTok though, so I wanted to mention this again. I love these buttons. I'm a button person. I'm obsessed with anything that has buttons, and so I love that this is just overloaded with buttons. The one thing that I think is really amazing about this piece, or what could be a set, is that you have so many variations. You've basically created one core basic piece, let's say when it's all done up, but you can really mix and match it. You could literally wear this as a skirt and a top, a skirt and a bra top, a skirt and a tube top, connect them the way that she has them here. You could create like a triangle effect by just attaching one button at the bust. You could create like cutout back details. I think this is really fun because it creates such a versatile piece. Maybe not necessarily in the orange color isn't the most versatile, but if you did this in like a black, like how much wear would you get out of this piece just by being able to mix and match it in so many different ways because of the buttons? So I think that's a really clever finish to keep in mind. And lastly, I love the lines of this top. I really love anything asymmetric and anything that's kind of like drawing a line into a point, if that makes sense. So I love the way that the fabric on this top kind of splays out from the sides and gathers in up at the shoulder. I think that just highlights like your collarbone area so beautifully. Even though it's not showing in this top, I just think that this is so gorgeous. And it looks like there's also a slight gather going down the side seam of the sleeveless portion of this top, which I also really like because again, it's creating another line that's kind of splaying out. I really love with asymmetric pieces having more than one detail that's off center to kind of balance out the asymmetry. So even though it's not symmetrical, it's not like off-putting to look at because everything feels like it's kind of evenly weighted visually. So I like that there's that other detail of cinching going on the side seam here and splaying out to kind of complement the one going on the shoulder. I really love this, and again, similar to a lot of other pieces we talked about today, I think that this would be a really, really great basic piece to make that you could just keep a pattern for and make in so many different fabrics. That's really my goal coming up, especially once the fall gets here. I just want to have a wardrobe of pieces that I know work for me, are flattering, and are just a no-brainer to throw on, be comfortable, but also look like I put effort in. Things that I'm excited by and are interesting to make outfits with. I'm doing so much decluttering right now, so I have some major holes in my wardrobe that I need to address coming up. So you can subscribe to this channel if you want to follow along with any future sewing videos, because some of these ideas just might end up on the channel. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, you can give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and I will see you back here next time.